Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. In our today's video, we'll be making this beautiful style you're seeing, how to cut and sew a v-neck bustier top using a lace scallop. If you are coming across my channel for the first time, I say a very big thank you to you, and to my returning subscribers, you are the best. Please don't forget to turn on your notification bell in case I drop a new video, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. So if this is what you're interested in, then let's get started. This is my pattern paper and that is the starting point. You mark out your starting point. The next thing to do is to measure at that starting point, measure out your shoulder measurement. The shoulder I'm working with is 15 inches, 15.5, which is 7.75, and I added half an inch to it. Note all allowance has been added to this pattern. I will be adding it to this pattern. So which I mark out at that point, and I measure the armhole. The armhole I'm working with also is 7.75. So I came down by 1 inch. So from the 1 inches I measured out the armhole, which is 7.75. You measure your own armhole also and you divide it by 2. Whatever you have, that's what you'll be putting there. So to determine your armhole is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I've marked out the armhole at that point. So from the starting point, I measured the bust point. The bust point I'm working with is 10.5. I will be using my marker later. I just want to make use of the pencil first. The under bust is 14 inches, while the waist is 17 inches. You measure whatever your own measurement is, please. Then the hip I'm working with is 25, which is the length of the blouse, and I'll be adding 1 inch to it that will serve as the hemming. So I'm connecting my lines. I'm connecting all the lines together. Note this is your pattern paper. When you are cutting on your fabric, your what's it called should be on fold. So the next thing to do now, can you see I've made use of my marker. So the next thing to do is to measure the neck, the width of the neck, which is 3.5. If you want it more wider than that, you can make use of 4 inches. So I'm connecting it to the 1 inch, which will serve as my shoulder slope. So I'm going to determine the nipple to nipple, measure whatever you have as your nipple to nipple, and you divide it by 2. Mine is 4 inches. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4 inches. I added half an inch to it. So I'll be taking it from the bust all to the hemline. I'll be taking the 4.5 all to the hemline. So whatever you have as your own nipple to nipple, divide it by 2, then you add half an inch to it. As I've said earlier, all allowance is going to be added on this pattern paper. So I connected it with my straight line. So the next thing to do now is at the at the under bust, at my under bust, I'll be taking half an inch at the center front, while at the side I'll be taking 1.5, which is 2. I'll do the same thing at the waist, half an inch at the center front, then at the side I'll be using 1 inch. So at the hip line I will come up by 2 inches, and at the bust point also I will be coming down by 1 inches. Then I will connect all the dots together. So this is me connecting the dots together. Can you see I'm placing my rule my cuff ruler. So this is it. This is how it should be looking like. So the next thing to do is to connect from that dart to our armhole. So I'll be dividing this armhole by 2. Whatever I have at that point will serve as the midpoint of the armhole. So from that point, I'll be coming inward by half an inch. You can also use 0.75, but for mine, I make use of 0.75. Are you getting me? You can make use of half an inch or 0.75. So that will prevent any budge at that part. So I'll be connecting it to that dart with my cuff ruler. From that point, I'll connect to the midpoint. So this is it. This is what you should have. So at that point also, I'll come down by 1.5. I'll come down by 1.5 at that point. Then from that 1.5 also, I'll connect it to the dart, to the bust point. Can you see I'm placing my ruler? Then I will extend it out. I will extend that line out by the same 1.5 that I took from that part. So if you come down by 2 inches, your extension should be also 2 inches. But I came down by 1.5. That's why I'm using 1.5. So this is it. That's where my 1.5 is. So we are almost through. The next thing to do now is to take our measurements. The measurements I'm working with is 38 for the bust. Divided by 4 will give me 9.5. You measure the dart you take, the dart intake, whatever you have, you add it to your measurement. Then I added my sewing allowance of 2.5 inches. So whatever I have at the bust point, I'll also take it at the armhole. I'll also take it at the bust point also. So the next thing is to cuff out my armhole. So this is it. I have cuffed it out. So whatever I have at the armhole, I'll measure it out at the bust point also. I'll measure it out at the bust point. So I'm adding my 2.5 inches to that part also. So at the under bust also, I measured my under bust. The under bust I'm working with is 32. Divided by 4 will give me 8 inches. Then I added the intake of 2 inches dart. 2 inches dart. I added it. Then I added my sewing allowance of 2.5 inches also. So I do the same thing at the waist part also. The waist I'm working with is 33 inches, which is 8.2. 33 divided by 4 will give me 8.2, plus the 2 inches that's allowance, which is 10.2, plus 2.5 inches for sewing allowance. So at the hem part also, which is the hip, I measured the hip. The hip I'm working with is 43, which is 10.75, and I added 2.5 sewing allowance. There is no dart. We didn't take any dart at the end part. So that's why we are not adding back the dart allowance. So I'm going to connect all these lines. I'll be connecting them together. I'll be connecting all the lines together with my cuff. So this is it. Then I'll come to the neckline. I'll be using 7 inches for the depth of the front. 7 inches for the depth. I make use of 3.5 for the width and 7 inches for the depth. And I'm using 1.5 inches for the depth of the back, which is 3.5 for the width and 1.5 for the depth. Why I use 7 inches for the depth of the front. So I'm connecting it with my cuff roll this way. So this is it. We are almost through. The next thing to do now is to draw out the yoke. So at that point, I'll be adding half an inch for shoulder joining, as I've told you that I'll be adding all allowance on this pattern paper. Half an inch for shoulder joining. I added half an inch for shoulder joining. So at the what's it called? At the 7 inches point, which is the V neck, I came down by 1.5. If you want it more lower than that, you can still do. So say I'm placing my cuff roll from that 1.5. So I'm going to cuff it this way to make the first that leg. So then I'll place it that way again to connect to the armhole. I'm going to cuff it so that it's going to enter the armhole this way. I'll be using my marker to mark it out so I can see what I've done at that part. So this is it. We are through with the front. So let's move to the back pattern. So this is the back. I'll be making use of this white pattern paper. So what I'm doing there is to place the front under and place the back on it so that I can get the same measurements so that it can be accurate. That's what I'm trying to do at that part. So I'm going to connect with my straight rule. I'm collecting all the lines, all the dotted with my ruler. Sorry, I'm using pencil. I'll be using my marker so it will be more obvious than this. So I'm trying to trace out the length. I'm tracing out the length. I'm tracing out the neckline with my marker. Just watch closely. You will get what I'm trying to explain in this video. I don't want to fast forward any part. I don't want to. Are you getting me? That's why I'm just trying to take my time so that you people will be able to understand what I'm doing here. So this is it. So the next thing to do, as the waistline, I came inward by half an inch. I came inward by half an inch and I used my ruler to slant it all the way to the neckline. That will prevent us from having zipper bulge at the back. So I placed the rule from that half an inch that I came inward, then I connected it all the way to the hem line also, as you see me do in the video. So that will prevent us from having a zipper bulge. Can you see? That's it. So from that point, I'll be starting my measurements. I'll be taking the zipper allowance. I make use of 1.5 for my zipper allowance. I'm using 1.5 for the zipper allowance. So I'm doing that all the way to the hem line. And I'll connect with a straight. I'll connect all the dots together. This will prevent your back from having a zipper bulge. It's going to lay flat on your back. So that's our zipper allowance. So note, all measurement is starting from that zipper allowance. So this is it. I'm trying to measure out the what's it called, the neckline, which I make use of 3.5. Can you see it's accurate? Then so from that point I measured out my shoulder measurement, which is 7.75, and I added 0.5 to it, which is 8.2. At that point also, I'm trying to get the same measurements. So my bust point, I've measured it out. Then I added 2.5 to it, which is serving as my sewing allowance. So the same thing I'll be putting on the bust point also. At this back, I will not be back pattern. I will not be using a dart. I'm not using that for this pattern. But if you want to make use of that, I will also explain it in this video in case you want to make use of that. But as for mine, I'm not using that. Just watch closely what I'm doing. I'm trying to take out the measurement. The measurement which of the hip is 43 divided by 4 will give me 10.75. I added 2.5 inches to it at the sewing allowance. So I'm going to connect these lines together. So this is it. So if you want to make use of a dart, I'm trying to explain the same thing we use at the front, which is 4.5. I'm going to use it at the back also, 4.5. My dart is 8. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4, and I added half an inch to it. So then you connect the dots with a straight line. So this is it. Sorry, I'm using pencil because I'm not using that. I'm just trying to explain in case you want to make use of it that. So at that point, I came down by 1 inch, and at the hem line, I came up by 2 inches. The same thing I did at the front. So at the waistline, I'll be taking half an inch on both sides. Then I'll connect all the dots together. The same thing you see me doing in the video, half an inch on both sides. Then I'll connect from that waist, I'll connect to the 2 inches that I came up at the hem line. So this is it. If you want your dart, and please, after doing that, you have to replace every dart you have taken. You replace it back to your measurement. But because mine, I'm not making use of it, that's why I'm using the measurement I've explained. So the next thing now to do is to measure out our armhole. We divide the armhole into two to get the midpoint. As for the back, I'm not going to come inward by half an inch. I'll just connect it to the midpoint this way. And I've also added my half an inch on the shoulder also. So the next thing I'm doing here is to get my yoke also for the back. I came down by 1.5 or so. If you want it more deeper than that, you can use whatever your preferred. Are you getting me? You can use whatever you want. But as for mine, I just came down by 1.5. I came down by 1.5 from the armhole. That's what I make use of. So our back also is ready. The next thing is to cut it out. So this is it. This is how it's looking like. So I'm going to cut out that half an inch we took. Sorry, I've cut this out. I made a mistake of cutting it out, but I've sellotape it. I will still be cutting it out, but just watch what I'm going to do. So this is the front. We are cutting out the front now. Watch how I'm going to cut out the front. At this point, if you find this video helpful, kindly give this video a thumbs up, like and share my videos, and please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to turn on your notification in case I drop a new video. You'll be the first to be updated. This is it. The front is ready. So can you see? I'm trying to place them together. Can you see what we have? Can you see they are matching up? This is what you should have. So at this point, I'm going to come up by 2 inches at the down point. I should have done that before cutting it out, but all the same, you can still do it. So from that 2 inches, I will connect it to the dart leg, and I will be cutting it out. So that is it. The front is ready. So I will do the same thing to the back also. I will be placing the front pattern on the back pattern so that to trim out that 2 inches I've cut out also. Please don't make the mistake. You can just do it when you were drafting, but it's still the same. So I'm going to trace it out this way, following the same pattern I have on the front. Then I'll cut it out. So both back and front pattern is ready. The next thing to do is to cut on our fabric. So this is me placing my fabric, my pattern paper. This lace is folded into two. We are using the savage. That's why I'm placing the pattern paper this way. Assuming you don't want to make use of your pattern paper, please, the front will be on fold. Please, the front should be on fold, but because I'm making use of that savage part, that's why I'm placing it this way. Are you getting me? It should be on fold. So this is it. I left a space of half an inch so that I will be using that to join both the front together. Just watch closely. I have two of this now. Two of this lace. I have it. Please, assuming you are not using your savage, the lace savage, this part should be on fold. You shouldn't be having any allowance at this part, at this center front. The side, we've added all our allowances on the pattern paper. That's why I'm not adding allowance on the side. So this is the back also. I'm going to cut the same thing I have on my pattern on the lace. Can you see? I have two of this lace is on fold, so I've cut it out. The same thing I have from the pattern. Now I told you earlier that I'll still be cutting it, so I'm going to remove the sellotape now. So I'll be using the down part now to cut the lining. I'll be using it to cut the lining. I'll be using it to cut the lining. This is my lining. I have a Mikado fabric and a crepe Then I have my cotton nestay. I have my zipper also. This is the Mikado fabric that I'm using. You can make use of any fabric of your choice. It's not compulsory you use what I'm using, but that's what my client wants. So this is it. I've cut it out. I placed both on fold and I placed my pattern on it to cut it out. I have 4 pieces of this. I have 4 pieces for both the 2 pieces for the what's it called for the Mikado, then 4 pieces also for the lining. Are you getting it? So this is it. This is how it's going to be looking like. So at the down part, your lining should be shorter by half an inch. Your lining should be shorter by half an inch. Your lining, not the Mikado, please, not the main fabric you are going to use to laminate the lace. The lining should be shorter by half an inch. So I've done the same thing for the front. I've cut it out also. I've cut the lace. So the next thing is to cut the lining for the front also. So I'll be placing my pattern this way for me to cut out the yoke. I'll be cutting out that yoke. So this is it. Placing it together to cut out the yoke, because this is what I'm going to use to cut the lining. So that yoke is not needed anymore because this is a cut together yoke. Are you getting me? So this is it. I've cut it out. So this is the center front. Can you see? I've joined it. I've joined it together and I've ironed it down. Please, in case you are not using lace savage, you don't need to do all this. Just fold your fabric into two and place your pattern paper to cut out. I'm trying to show you how to laminate. I'm placing my hemming gum on the Mikado fabric and I'll place my net on it and I'll iron it down so that they will marry each other. Both the Mikado and the lace will be one. So this is it. I've joined them. I've joined both the fronts. I've joined the center. I've joined the lining. I've ironed my cotton stay on the lining. I've cut out the pad. I've done everything. So the next thing is to notch. This is it. I've joined them. I've joined both the lining and the lace together. Can you see? I've sewn the down part also by half an inch. So I'll be turning it out. This is what you should have. Our front is ready. This is what you should have. So please take note of these parts. I want to quickly explain something to you. See that part you see me holding? That part, I've sewn one side. Let me show you what I did. Both the lining is separate and the lace also is separate. Let me show you what I did at that point. So you'll be sewing. When you You sew all the way from the down part. From where the lining is stopping, see where the lining is stopping, you come down by half an inch on the lace. When you get to that part, come down by half an inch from where the lining is stopping. Come down by half an inch from there, and you notch the lace, not the lining. Notch the lace. I don't know if you understand. See what I'm doing. Notch it. Just notch it by half an inch inward. You come down by half an inch where the lining stopped. Come down by half an inch on the lace, and you notch the lace. Then you sew and close up the lining. You continue your sewing. You flip the lace inward as you see me doing in the video. Flip your lace inward and continue your sewing all the way to the top. You close it up. After closing it up, then from where you notch, from that half an inch you notch on the lace, then you continue your sewing also from that part all the way to the top. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to explain in this video. If you think I'm too fast, please try and watch the video again. This will help you to have space when you are placing your lining, because if you place both lace and the lining together, you won't be able to place your lining. That's why we are doing that. So can you see what we have? Can you see that we have space there to place our lining? If I close it up together, I will not be able to place the lining. I will not be able to sew it down. So the next thing to do now is to place the lining. Place the lining and you sew it down by half an inch. You sew it down by half an inch. Then you close the side. Then our front is ready. So now let's move to this is it. Can you see? Can you see? So I've secured it, I've sewn it down. I've run a stitch on it. I run a stitch from that part all to the other side so that it will secure both lace and lining together. So I'm going to close that side and our front is ready. So let's move to the back. This is it. We don't have lights, please just bear with me. You know, these days NEPA is just doing anyhow. So this is the back. This is the back. So I place the, what's it called? I place the lining. I open up the mikado, which is serving as the lining which I used to laminate the lace, and I place the lining on it, flipping the lace inside, and I will be sewing it up by half an inch at the upper part. I will sew it down by half an inch at the end part also, the zipper area too. The side, I will close them up. Please take note of this part. I want to explain something to you at that zipper area. So let me explain what I'm trying to say the other time. This is it. I've done one part of the back. So let me explain what I did. The same thing I did at the front, which is I came down by half an inch on the lace, and I notch it. Half an inch on the lace, and I notched the lace. You know, the mikado and the lace, they are one. So I notched it. I've notched it inward. Can you see? So that I will be flipping the lace inward. Just watch close. The same thing I explained to you at the front is what I'm going to do at the back also. So I've closed the side, I've closed the down parts. So this is what I'm trying to explain. I've notched it by half an inch inward. I'm going to sew all the way. I'll be sewing lining to lining. Can you see? I'll be sewing it lining to lining. Then I'll be flipping the lace inward. Please try and watch this part carefully. I'll close it up and I'll close the upper part also. This is it after sewing it up. Can you see what I have? The half an inch I cut, that's it. That's the part. So I've done that to both sides, and you'll be giving it a very good press. Then our back. So our back is ready. The next thing to do is to place the bias. I'll be placing a bias at that neckline. Using bias to turn the neckline for both the back. This is the bias that I'll be using. So I'll be using it to turn. So I've done that. I've closed the side. I've closed the zipper area. And the next thing is to place my zip. So I'll be placing the zip, then our top is ready. So if you find this video helpful, kindly give this video a thumbs up, like and share this video so that more people will benefit from it. So this is it. If you have a longer zip, just start from the down, place your zip from the down, and you sew all the way up. If you any excess you have at the top, you can just trim it out. So the front and the back is ready. I'll be joining the side after closing the back, placing the zip. I'll be placing the front on the back, and I'll be closing it up by my allowance that I added. So this is it. If you're interested in learning how I made the sleeve, you can just drop comment for me on the comment section. Thank you. Bye.